¿Qué pasa, YouTube? What's up? How's it going, everybody? So it is Friday when this battle is going up, and what other way to end the week of Wi-Fi battles than with one insane, crazy, absurd, out of this world battle, man. Like, this UBERS game was just incredible in my opinion, man. Honestly, I think this is probably one of the best games I've had in Ultra Sun and Moon, and I really do hope you guys stick around for the whole thing and enjoy the video. If you do enjoy the video, make sure to show off your support, hit that thumbs up button down below, and answer the common question of the day. And just, man, this battle is absolutely crazy, guys. So this match was against Kyle Rare off of my Discord, somebody that I've been battling a lot lately, but he definitely does know what he is doing, so he puts up a very good challenge, and you guys will see that in this battle. So going into this game, I was using a pretty cool team that I got off of the Uber forums on Smogon. I don't quite remember who made the team, but I don't take credit for this. I'll leave the original version of the team down in the description. And going into this battle, the biggest threats I saw on my opponent's side of the field were easily going to be the Necrozma if it's a setup variant. Marshadow could also be a little bit of an issue to switch in depending on if it's Life Orb or not. And then Yveltal could be an absolute nightmare to deal with if I lose my Xerneas. So I ended up leading off with my Zygarde, as he ended up leading off with the Yveltal. If he was not Taunt Yveltal, I essentially got a free paralysis on something that he had, so I was willing to risk that turn one, as he did end up going for the U-turn, which automatically tells me that he's either Choice Specs or he's Choice Scarf, and Scarf Yveltal is pretty common in the UBERS tier. So I do go for the glare as I catch the Arceus here. I'm going to switch directly into my Venusaur, as he makes a good double switch into his Primal Groudon. I am Mega Venusaur, and Mega Venusaur in UBERS is actually really fun to use. I definitely want to try this out a bit more in future teams, because Padef Venusaur actually can just eat so many hits, and because of Leech Seed, it can wear things down over time, along with Toxic as well. And then Grass Knot does really respectable damage to a lot of mons that don't resist it. And then of course you have Synthesis for recovery. So I end up Leech Seeding there on his Groudon, expecting him to just want to go for his Stealth Rocks, and if he was feeling aggressive and he wanted to go for the Precipice Blade, depending on his spread, I could actually live to after the Leech Seed, so I was willing to risk that as well, as I do get off a little bit of chip damage on the Primal Groudon. In comes the Yveltal as he gets caught by my Toxic, and this is really nice because now I can start getting off some residual damage on the Yveltal, which means it will be a little bit easier for the rest of my team to be able to beat it, as I switch into my Zygarde here in hopes that he would actually put me in range of where he would activate my Power Construct, so I could turn into Zygarde-Complete form. Unfortunately though, because of Leftovers, I will just barely be out of range, but it's not entirely too bad because another Oblivion Wing will activate my complete form, and then in complete form I can live in Oblivion Wing the next turn, and then after that go for the rest, because I changed this set from Rest Haze to Rest Sleep Talk because I was mainly going to use this team on Wi-Fi. But he does get really lucky there and he gets a crit. Now in the long run of the battle, I'm not sure how much it really changed, but Zygarde being around would have been excellent because I am physically defensive. I would have been able to pivot into Groudon, into the Necrozma, and into the Marshadow. But now that I lose my Zygarde, I am really in the back foot of this battle, not only by score but also by hazards. I'm down 5 to 6, and he has Stealth Rocks on my side of the field. So I bring in my Xerneas here, and I make a bit of a questionable play in going for the Thunder. I thought that maybe he would try to bring in his Necrozma, when in hindsight he had a perfect switch in the form of Primal Groudon. Luckily, it doesn't hurt me too bad, as I switch into my Arceus here. He's going to make a really good double switch into his own Arceus, as I decide to go for the Defog, and I get a little lucky here as he gets fully paralyzed. Now typically Arceus Fairy do carry Toxic, so if he did try to Toxic me there, that full paralysis really is going to end up helping me out in the long run of this battle. So I guess that kind of maybe makes up for me not having Zygarde, but it still would have been really nice to have a Zygarde complete in this game. Regardless though, I will try to switch into my Mega Venusaur here as he goes for the Judgment. This is now going to allow me to go for a free Leech Seed and just get off a little bit more chip damage on whatever comes in, as he does opt to bring in the Yveltal. Now I got Leech Seed and I got Toxic, which is absolutely amazing. And because I'm pretty positive that this is Scarf Yveltal, judging for how much little damage he did to my physically defensive Zygarde, I could have honestly stayed in here to take an Oblivion Wing, and in hindsight I really wish that I did risk that, because I could have just gone for the Synthesis as he went for the Oblivion Wing, and eventually I would have been able to severely wear down this Yveltal. But he does make a really good play there. He goes for the U-turn, expecting me to not stay in fear of the Oblivion Wing. U-turns out into his Arceus Fairy as I make a giant misclick here. I 100% did not want to bring in Xerneas. I have Mega Venusaur in the back. Even if he predicted that and pulled a double switch, regardless, Mega Venusaur is an absolutely safe switch in this scenario, and now my Xerneas is basically poisoned due to my stupidity. So that's really bad, because Xerneas can actually prove to be a huge threat to him if that turns out to be Ultra Necrozma and he does turn into its Ultra form, or if I just get rid of the Necrozma in general. So this turn, I'm going to try to bring in my Groudon in hopes that maybe he would stay in and go for the Judgment, but he's actually going to pull a switch out into his own Groudon here, probably expecting me to go for the Moonblast with my Xerneas, which is very understandable, because with his Xerneas being paralyzed, if he got fully paralyzed, as I did go for the Moonblast, I might have been able to beat him 1v1, and then I decide to be aggressive here and go straight for the Precipice Blade, as he does make the safe switch into his Giratina Origin form. Typically, Giratina Origin form is run to deal with Primal Groudon, so if anything, I should have taken the opportunity to go for my Stealth Rocks in that scenario. But if he did feel risky and leaving in his Primal Groudon, I wanted to try and weaken that. As I switch into my Mega Venusaur here, I will be able to live a Hex into a Draco Meteor after going for this Leech Seed. I believe, depending on rolls, I might have actually been able to live another Draco Meteor, or I think I was slightly out of range of Draco Meteor knocking me out. I don't quite remember the calc off the top of my head. Regardless though, I am willing to risk this here, and I'm going to try and go for the Synthesis if he really did want to leave in his Giratina to go for the Draco Meteor again. Plus, there was always a chance that he might have missed the Draco there, so I really felt like the odds were more or less in my favor to just try and stay in and make the safe play and going for the Synthesis, as he makes a good aggressive switch here into his Necrozma. I am terrified of the Photon Geyser, so I'm going to switch right into my Yveltal, as he does actually turn out to have the Swords Dance on this Necrozma, and this is a little bit scary. So I thought that he was going to try an Ultra Burst this turn, which is why I stay in and I aggressively go for the Sucker Punch. Honestly, I stand by this play, because if he did Ultra Burst there at +2, I had no safe switch-ins to Necrozma. Necrozma at +2 being Ultra Necrozma essentially just got a free KO on my team, so I absolutely felt like I had to go for the Sucker Punch. As I switch into my Venusaur, he makes a good double switch back into his Groudon, and I believe this turn I do stay in and I go for the Leech Seed if I'm not mistaken, expecting him to try and go for the Stealth Rock. Unfortunately though, I missed the Leech Seed. That Leech Seed miss doesn't really matter too much in the end, but still, just getting off that little bit of chip damage would have been absolutely amazing. Plus, it would have made me switching into this Necrozma a whole lot easier in case he did stay in the following turn to go for the Sunsteel Strike. So I bring in my Yveltal here in fear of the Photon Geyser, and this is where me missing that Leech Seed does kind of suck, because I would have been able to gain back just a little bit more HP, but I am going to expect him to try and switch out this turn, and I decided to go for the Oblivion Wing. There was realistically no reason for him to have tried to leave in his Necrozma there when I already revealed to him that I had Sucker Punch, and then I could have easily gone for the Dark Pulse as well. So as I catch the incoming Arceus Fairy, I'm feeling pretty ballsy right now, and I'm going to go for the Oblivion Wing again, thinking that he would either try to switch out or that he would stay in and go for the recover. Plus, there was the possibility that he was going to get fully paralyzed, and if he did get fully paralyzed, I would have been able to comfortably 2 KO him with the Oblivion Wing. Regardless though, if he did try to switch out, there's honestly no safe switch-in that he has to the dual stab of Life Orb Yveltal. And I think I've said this before, but Yveltal on UBERS is just absolutely amazing to me, man. This thing runs so many sets that are so effective. Defensive is amazing, Life Orb is amazing, Specs is terrifying, and then even Scarfed is very solid as a revenge killer and speed control mon. So in comes the Arceus as I switch right back into my Venusaur. He does unfortunately get fully paralyzed there. I'm not really too sure what he wanted to go for. That paralysis might have mattered if he did want to go for the recover, but as I go for the lead seat here on the Yveltal, I do miss again, and that was a little bit annoying because that would have been more damage off on this Yveltal, and then that means that I would have been able to switch into this thing a whole lot easier as I bring in my Arceus here in hopes that he does not 2 KO me, which thankfully he is not able to. And if he had gone for the Dark Pulse there, that actually would have been absolutely terrifying, but I do still have Xerneas in the back, which could have very well safely switched into the Yveltal, so I will be able to take this chance to go ahead and go for the recover to try and get my Arceus back up to as much HP as possible. As in comes the Giratina Origin form, I am willing to risk a Toxic this turn because if I'm able to Toxic his Giratina, that means it will no longer be an answer to my Primal Groudon in the back. But he makes another really good switch here into the Necrozma, expecting me to either go for that or possibly go for the Ice Beam, both of which Necrozma would have been able to take. Obviously, Toxic does not affect it. So I try to bring in my Primal Groudon here, as I believe he actually pulls another switch into the Marshadow. Now, because I am at max, or at full HP, sorry, I can comfortably live any hit he wants to go for. So I'm going to stay in here and go for the Overheat, just trying to knock out the Marshadow. But I do a clean like 40% to the incoming Giratina, and that is absolutely amazing because now what I can do this next turn is try to get off a little bit more damage with the Rock Tomb. And the main reason I didn't want to go for the Defog is because there was a good possibility that he did have Defog on this Giratina, and now I know that my Groudon is faster than his Giratina, so this could come into play later in this match. So this turn I'm going to switch into my Yveltal, expecting him to want to go for the Hex, as he actually makes another really good play here, goes for a double Toxic, expecting me to switch out, knowing that I probably wouldn't leave in my Groudon for it to get weakened. And now unfortunately my Yveltal is Toxic, but in the end it's not that big of an issue because there's no reason for him to try and risk his Giratina here. So long as he's got that Giratina, my Groudon is not going to be doing entirely too much damage with the Precipice Blade, and if he loses Giratina, I can just spam Precipice Blade for free against his entire squad. So I do expect him to try and switch here as I catch the incoming Arceus with the Oblivion Wing. This will be a clean 2 KO at the amount of HP that he is at, and down goes the Arceus, and this is absolutely amazing. This is where him getting fully paralyzed earlier does come into play, but I still think that kind of makes up for me not being able to have Zygarde in this battle. But it is what it is, as in comes the Marshadow. I cannot afford to lose my Yveltal. Yveltal is an absolutely gigantic threat to his squad. It's probably the biggest threat that I have to him at this moment in the battle. So I'm going to make an aggressive switch here into my Xerneas, knowing that I can easily live a close combat. And then the following turn, I should be able to possibly knock him out with the Moonblast if he does not expect me to be Scarfed. Although, if he does expect me to be Scarfed, this is a good chance for me to go for the Aromatherapy. And if he did try to stay in and go for the close combat again, he would have been at -2 defense, which at that point I would have been able to safely bring in my Groudon, I think, and I would have been able to just go straight for the Overheat and potentially claim a KO, because at this amount of HP, the Giratina I don't think can actually live an Overheat from my Primal Groudon. So I really felt like going for the Aromatherapy there to get rid of the Toxic on Groudon and Yveltal was ultimately my better play, as he makes another good double switch here into the Necrozma, expecting me to bring in my Venusaur. I'm going to stay in and I'm going to go for the Leech Seed, thinking that at this point he probably does not have the full Taunt Geyser. So This could also mean that because he doesn't have Photon Geyser, he may not be Ultra Necrozma, or if he did have Photon Geyser, I felt that he might expect me to try and switch out, predicting that. So I really didn't think I lost too much in going for the Leech Seed there, although in the end it was a really risky play of me to do. But again, like the beginning of this match leading up to this point, like I've been trying to somehow shift momentum back into my favor so that I wouldn't be in such a bad spot. So again, another really good double switch, man. Kyle is really applying the pressure to me in this battle, being able to make these good double switches, reading me almost like a book, and I'm basically forced to try and answer to the doubles that he is making. But they're not doubles to the point where it puts me in an absolutely terrible position, if you guys get what I mean. So I do end up losing my Xerneas there, which is perfectly fine. I didn't mind losing my Xerneas at that point, because at this moment I can bring in my Groudon, and what I'm going to do is actually go for the Stealth Rocks this turn, expecting him to predict me to go for either the Overheat or the Precipice Blade, as I am able to get up my rocks here. In comes the Giratina, and I was just hoping and praying that the Giratina was in range of this Overheat. This way I could guarantee keep up my Stealth Rocks, and thanks to the Rock Tomb that I went for earlier in the battle, this Giratina was guaranteed in range of the Overheat in the end, and I'm able to knock it out, which means my rocks are here to stay. I'm slowly but surely shifting all the momentum back into my favor, and now I'm the one that is in an advantage because of me having rocks up and me being up one Pokemon. So in comes the Yveltal. This little bit here is going to be very sped up because it's me just trying to Toxic Stall this Yveltal, because at this point there was not really anything I could safely switch in to this monster. And after going for that recover, I knew that my Mega Venusaur in the back could live one Dark Pulse, which means I would be able to take down this Yveltal with me, thanks to the fact that I was going to be able to get off 2 turns of toxic damage on it with my Mega Venusaur, the turn that I switched in and the turn that he took to knock out my Venusaur. So it is a double down as I bring in my Primal Groudon. In comes the Marshadow, with him losing his Giratina and losing his Yveltal. He does not have anything to safely switch into my Precipice Blade, and I will definitely end up going for that as I'm able to chew a Life Orb close combat. This Marshadow is going to just drop. Now at this point his last Pokemon is the Necrozma, which I'm very positive is offensive because he showed me Swords Dance, and I still do not know if it is Ultra Necrozma or if it is not Ultra Necrozma, as he does turn out to be Ultra Necrozma, and this is actually a little bit scary because if he was just regular Necrozma, that means that my Yveltal could just come in, outspeed him, and knock him out with the Dark Pulse. However though, now that I know he is Ultra Necrozma, this means if it comes down to it, I am going to have to play the mind games of whether or not he's going to predict me to go for Sucker Punch, and he's gonna try and Swords Dance on my Sucker Punches. So I bring in my Arceus here in hopes that maybe I could just knock him out with the Ice Beam, but unfortunately it's not stabbed. I'm not running any special attack investment, and Ultra Necrozma does have some solid bulk, so it just absolutely eats that Ice Beam like it's nothing as he goes for the Swords Dance. This next turn he is going to absolutely just annihilate my Arceus. Like there was really nothing I wanted to do in this scenario, because there was no way I was going to risk bringing in Yveltal on the potential Z move. Like it might have been very obvious for him to have gone for Light That Burns the Sky to guarantee the KO on my Arceus, but I really did not feel like I was in the position to try and bring in my Yveltal there when I can just get a free switch into it the next turn after he knocks out my Arceus. So he knocks me out as I bring in my Yveltal. At this point, it just comes down to the mind games. If it really ended up having to be the way that I potentially played it out in my head, I would have stayed in here and spammed Sucker Punch all 7 turns, which means unless he was willing to spam Swords Dance 7 more times, then eventually I would have caught him with the Sucker Punch and beat him, and that is going to be the very extremely narrow 1-0 victory in my favor. And man, I Whew, I had to take a break like after this battle. I think the actual battle was like 40 minutes long in real time, and the battle itself was 55 turns, guys. Like, this match was so back and forth. Kyle made so many great double switches and just really good plays in general, and just kept me on my toes, man. Absolutely amazing game to Kyle. Let me know if you guys watched this insanely long battle, please. Like, I would love to know if you guys actually stuck around for the whole thing. But regardless, I do hope all of you enjoyed it. Make sure to hit that thumbs up button if you did, and with that being said, I will see you all tomorrow with some Draft League content, and on Monday again with a regular Wi-Fi battle. So just thank you all for watching, guys. Later, everybody.
No matter where you're at, I'm not here to make friends, it's time to attack and deplete your HP with a final smash. Don't make me turn around and pull a 6-foot hacks. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks, yeah. 6 foot hacks.